Once upon a time, there lived a lady named Vivian. Vivian married a man named John. When John wanted to marry Vivian, his parents, Mr. Kelvin and Mrs. Edith, warned him not to because they observed Vivian's behavior and character. Even John brothers didn't support him in marrying Vivian. They knew that if John married Vivian, he might have problems in the future. When John and Vivian were friends, Vivian would control John in various ways. During that time, John was the one who would wash her clothes, cook in the house, and do all the domestic work, simply because Vivian satisfied him in bed. John, an engineer with work opportunities everywhere, was well known among people. Despite his parents' warnings, John insisted on marrying Vivian. Mr. Kelvin and Mrs. Edith refused to accompany John when he went to pay Vivian's bride price due to their objections to the marriage. John then moved out of their home and lived elsewhere. When John wanted to pay Vivian's bride price, his parents refused to go, stating that if he wanted to marry Vivian, he should proceed without their support. John called some of his friends to stand in as his parents and other relatives during the ceremony. After marrying Vivian, she started to control him excessively. John did all the household chores, while Vivian would only tell him to bathe her, which remained the only task she would ask of him. John did everything because of Vivian's beauty and how she satisfied him in bed. Later, John opened a shop for Vivian to sell foodstuffs. A year later, they had a boy named Judas. 3 years later, they had another boy named Eric. 3 years after that, they had another boy, and although Vivian wanted to name him, John insisted on naming him Mark. After the birth of Mark, John realized he shouldn't be doing all the household chores. He confronted himself and decided to stop, telling Vivian she would now be responsible for them. Vivian refused, insisting that John continue as before. John stood firm, stating that he had done enough since they married. When Vivian realized John was no longer interested in her, she visited a native doctor to obtain a charm to control him. The native doctor provided Vivian with instructions on how to use the charm to control John. When Vivian returned home, John was waiting, angry that she hadn't cooked for the children. He attempted to discipline her, but Vivian used the charm to make him drop the cane and cook the food himself. From that day on, John became the one doing everything in the house, as Vivian had successfully gained control over him. 2 years later, they had another child, and it was still a boy. They named him Bethel. Vivian trained their children and even used spells on them to make them lazy so that they would not help their father with domestic work in the house. As John's children grew up, none of them did domestic work because they saw their father doing it, and he never complained about it because he was under a spell. Only Mark helped his father with domestic work when his mother was not around because if she saw Mark helping his father, she would beat him that day. Vivian always beat Mark because he helped his father with domestic work. But Jerry, Eric, and Bethel didn't care to know if their father was suffering because they had become lazy due to how Vivian trained them when they were growing up. Only Mark helped his father, and he was the only hard-working one among the 4 boys they had given birth to. Vivian hated Mark because sometimes he would come to her and ask why she was treating their father that way and why he was the one doing all the domestic work in the house. Whenever Mark said anything like that, Vivian would beat him. When John's parents died, Vivian insisted that they needed to go to their house and stay because John was the first child and it was his inheritance since his father had died. John agreed, and they packed their belongings and went back to his parents' house. When they reached there, John continued doing all the domestic work. His brothers and their families were not staying with them, they had built their own houses and lived with their families. John's brothers didn't know that he was the one doing all the domestic work in the house. John was suffering inside but never complained because he didn't know why he was doing it, he was under a spell. One day, John's brother Peter heard that his brother was back with his family. He decided to visit them because it had been a long time since he had seen them. When Patrick reached their house, he saw John washing their plates outside the building. Peter was shocked to see John washing a plate. "Peter, my brother, are you back?" John, "Yes, I'm back." John welcomed him. "Peter, why are you washing these plates by yourself? Isn't your wife or children around?" John, "Don't worry, I'll wash them." "Never mind." Peter thought to himself, what's going on? I don't understand why John is washing their plates and where his wife and children are. Peter, where is your wife and children? I want to see them. John, they are inside. Peter entered the house to see John's family. Inside, John's wife Vivian and their 3 sons, Jerry, Eric, and Bethel, were watching a movie on Vivian's phone. Mark was sitting alone, looking upset, as he and Vivian were having an argument. "Peter, how are you doing, my brother's wife?" Vivian, "Not fine. Your brother is not treating me well." Peter, "Is he not providing food for you? Or is he mistreating you? What happened?" Vivian, John always leaves everything for me to do. Before I go to my shop to sell foodstuffs, I have to wash his clothes, fetch water, cook, and wash the dishes. It's affecting my health. Mark looked at his mother and thought, why is my mother like this? Why does she lie to deceive people? She's not a good person. Peter, but I saw John washing the plates outside. Vivian, yes, he saw that the work I did last night was affecting me, so he decided to help. But I'm the one doing all the domestic work in this house. Peter, what about your children? Can't they help with the chores? Vivian, these three here always help me, but Mark does nothing. He's lazy. Peter, you guys should always help John in this house. I don't want to see him doing domestic work again. After their discussion, Peter left the room and met John outside washing the plates. Peter, John, I don't want to come here again and see you doing domestic work. Your children or wife should do it. John didn't say anything, but he agreed silently. Peter, I've said what I wanted to. I'm leaving. See you next time. John, okay, greet your family for me. I'll come and see them one day. Peter, okay, bye. Peter left, and John continued washing the plates. After Peter left the place, Vivian thought to herself, Peter is crossing the line. He wants to destroy my family for me. Vivian, it's like he doesn't know who I am. He shouldn't try me before I do to him what he wouldn't like. Vivian, if I don't do something now, he may find out that I'm using a spell on my husband and he may destroy it. Vivian, I need to do something about Peter. He can't come to another person's family, destroy it, and get away with it. That night, when Vivian saw that everyone was asleep, she carried her calabash that was given to her by the native doctor, and went outside their house. Vivian carried the calabash and started chanting incantations. After she finished the incantations, Vivian sent blindness to Peter. Immediately, Peter became blind. Vivian, Peter, let me see the eyes that you will use to see when John is doing domestic work in this house. Vivian entered their house. That same night, when Peter woke up to go urinate, he couldn't see anything. Peter thought it was because of the darkness of the night. He used his hands to search for his torch, and found it. Peter turned on the torch to see something, thinking it was because of the darkness. When he turned on the torch, he still didn't see anything. Peter was so surprised. He started calling his wife, Blessing. Peter, Blessing, please wake up. I don't know what's happening to me. Blessing woke up and said, my husband, what is it? Peter, Blessing, please turn on this torch for me. Blessing, the torch is already on. Peter, are you sure, my wife? Blessing, yes, I'm sure the torch is on. Peter, I'm finished. Blessing, what happened? Peter, I'm blind, truly. I can't see anything. Blessing, you're lying, my husband. You can't be blind. I reject it. Peter, I'm blind, truly. I don't know what's happening to me. Peter, I just woke up to urinate. And everything was dark. I thought it was because of the night. So I turned on my torch. But I still couldn't see anything. Peter, I'm finished. Who did this to me? I've never had eye problems before, let alone going blind. Peter and Blessing cried that night. And their children cried too. In the morning, the news spread that Peter was blind. That he went to sleep and woke up blind. When Vivian heard that Peter was blind, she started singing and said, Peter, come again and interfere in matters that don't concern you. Vivian, I want to see the eyes you'll use to see when John is doing domestic work. When John heard that Peter, his brother, was blind, he was not happy. John, how is it possible? Didn't Peter come to my place yesterday? John, how could he be blind? I'll go and see him. Throughout the day, Vivian was happy about the news she heard regarding Peter's blindness. John visited his brother's house. When he arrived, Peter's wife welcomed him. John sat down. John, Peter, how did you go blind? You were at my place yesterday. And you didn't mention any problems with your eyes. Peter, it surprised me. I woke up in the night and realized I was blind. I don't know what really happened. John, oh, people are so wicked in this world. What did you do to deserve all this suffering? John, I'm sorry. Peter, it's okay, my brother. As long as I'm still alive, I'm okay with it. After John stayed for a while, he said, I'll be going home, see you another day. Peter, okay, see you another day. John left the place. As time went by, Peter's blindness became a big problem for him and his family. They tried hard, but he couldn't see anything. Meanwhile, Vivian felt satisfied because it seemed like her spell had control over Peter. But even though people felt sorry for Peter, some started to wonder if something fishy was going on. Peter's wife, Blessing, felt like there was more to his blindness than they knew. One evening, Blessing talked to Peter, saying she felt like something important was missing. Blessing, Peter, I can't take this feeling that we're missing something important. Peter agreed, tired and accepting of his situation. Blessing, I know it sounds weird, but what if someone planned this? Peter didn't understand. Peter, who would do that? And why? Blessing wasn't sure, but she felt like there was something they didn't know. As they talked, Vivian was happy that her plan worked, but she started to doubt if it was the right thing to do. She worried that something bad might happen because of what she did. As doubts grew, Vivian realized she might have made a mistake. She struggled with the idea of getting revenge or facing consequences for her actions. Vivian, nothing is going to happen. If anything happens, I will bear it. Vivian enters their room and brings out her charm calabash. She wants to cover everything, even though Peter went somewhere to check who caused her blindness. They will not see that it was me who caused his blindness. Vivian uses her power to cover up the truth behind Peter's blindness. One day, Vivian was sitting in front of their building. A boy named Ogo, their neighbor Stella's child, was coming back with his school result. They have closed school. And he took the first position. When Ogo reached where Vivian was sitting, he greeted Vivian and said to her, I took first place in our school this term. Vivian, oh, congratulations. Let me see your result. Ogo gave Vivian the result. Vivian checked the result and found out that Ogo truly took first place. Vivian, I'm so happy for you. Keep it up, don't regress in the next term. Don't relax and think that because you took first, no one can take it from you. Ogo thanked Vivian and carried his result away. Vivian thought to herself, okay, you are happy that you took first, and my own children can't take first place. You're the only one taking first. Vivian, last term, it was you who took first, and this term, you're the one who took first again. It can't continue this way. I need to do something. Vivian entered her room and brought out her charm calabash, starting to do incantations. When she finished the incantations, Vivian commanded Ogo's knowledge and brain and put it inside the calabash she was holding. Vivian, let's see how you'll keep taking first place every time. As if you're the only student in the class. If my own children take first place, will the heavens fall? Every time my own children fail. Except for my stupid son Mark. He's the only one who sometimes takes second or third place. After Vivian finished what she was doing, she hid the calabash. In the evening, when John came back from work, thinking his wife had cooked something for him to eat. When John reached home, his wife rushed to him and hugged him. Vivian, my sweet husband, you're back. John, yeah, today's work was stressful but rewarding. And someone contacted me about a contract he wants to offer me. Did you cook anything? I'm very hungry. Vivian, no, I didn't cook anything. I just got back from my shop. It hasn't been 10 minutes since I returned. John, okay, go and cook the food, let's eat. Vivian, no, you go and cook it. You're acting like you no longer love me. Why would you tell your queen to go into the kitchen? It's not fair. John wanted to shout at her, but the spell held him. John, don't worry, my beautiful and hardworking wife. I'll do everything in this house. Go inside and bring out your dirty clothes. After I finish cooking, I'll come and wash them for you. Vivian, that's why I love you so much. I love the way you do everything in this house. You're just a caring and responsible man. John dropped his bag. He didn't even take off his coat. He entered the kitchen and started preparing food for his family to eat. After John finished preparing the food, he ate a little and then rushed out to wash the clothes his wife brought for him to wash. John started washing the clothes. When he finished, he hung them up. Then he went to take a bath, and he went to his resting room to lie down and rest after the day's work. The following day, when Vivian went to her shop in the afternoon, her neighbor Confidence was in the same line, discussing something with her friend. Vivian, neighbor, what are you guys talking about there? Confidence, nothing. We are discussing what concerns us. Vivian, I asked what you guys are talking about, and you don't want to say anything. Vivian, are you mad? Confidence, you are very stupid. What concerns you with what we are talking about? Every time you look for trouble. Confidence, I have been patient with you, but this time around, I will show you who I am. Vivian, are you challenging me? Do you know who I am? Confidence, who are you? Is it because I've been lenient with you all this while? This is the last time I'm warning you. Any day you try me again, I will beat the hell out of you. Vivian, you are a mad woman for saying today is the last day you'll warn me. Vivian and her neighbor started exchanging words and then fighting until their other neighbor came and separated them. After the fight, Vivian didn't talk, she just went straight to her shop and stayed there. It was her neighbor who was talking and shouting. Confidence, is it because I'm ahead of you in this line? I will show you why they call me the Big Mama. Today's incident is small, any day you try me again, I will deal with you. Vivian thought to herself, this woman will regret fighting me. I will end her career. Confidence has crossed her line by challenging me, Vivian. I will show her who I am. After that day's market, when Vivian reached their house at night, she brought out her calabash and started doing her incantations. Vivian said, this neighbor will know who I am. I will first make her business go back to the extent that she can't even pay for her shop rent. After I make her poor, I will kill her. She has the nerve to fight me. No, she can't get away with it. When she finished, something like fire rose from the calabash and headed to Confidence's shop to block it in the realm of the spirit so that customers would not see her shop. Vivian said, let me see how Confidence will manage to sell anything again in her shop. After that day, the following day in the shop. Confidence indeed faced difficulties in her business after Vivian's incantation. Customers seemed to pass by her shop without noticing it, and those who did enter rarely made purchases. Confidence struggled to pay her shop rent and meet her daily expenses. As her business dwindled, Confidence grew increasingly desperate. She couldn't understand why her once thriving shop was now struggling to attract customers. Despite her best efforts to improve sales, nothing seemed to work. Meanwhile, Vivian observed from a distance, satisfied with the chaos she had caused. She reveled in Confidence's downfall, feeling a twisted sense of superiority in vindication for the altercation they had. One day, as Ade woke up to prepare for school, he felt an unusual sense of fog clouding his mind. He shrugged it off, attributing it to fatigue from his recent academic achievements. Little did he know, Vivian's meddling had already set unforeseen consequences in motion. As Ade entered the classroom, he noticed something peculiar. The once familiar equations and formulas seemed like cryptic symbols, foreign and incomprehensible. Panic seized him as he realized he couldn't grasp even the simplest concepts he had effortlessly mastered before. Throughout the day, Ade struggled to keep up with his classmates, his confidence shattered and his grades plummeting. The once shining star of the school now found himself drowning in confusion and frustration. Meanwhile, Vivian observed from a distance, a smug grin playing on her lips. Satisfied with the initial results of her enchantment, she reveled in her newfound sense of power. Peter's blindness has become a problem for him. One day, Peter called his wife Amaka. Amaka, yes, husband, you called me. Peter, yes, I called you. My blindness is affecting me so much. I can't go to work. I can't see anything. I can't continue like this. We need to do something, the blindness is getting out of hand. Amaka, you are right, my husband. How can you become blind overnight? Amaka, one of my friends directed me somewhere. We need to go that way. Peter, even I. One of my friends directed me somewhere. But let's first go to your friend's place. If we don't see any improvement, then we will go where my friend directed me. Amaka, okay, my husband. They later arranged a date to visit a native doctor to cure Peter's blindness. The same day, when John's children came back from school, Mark said to his siblings. We need to help our father in this house. How can we leave him to do all the domestic work? He washes mom's clothes, fetches water, and even sweeps the house. We are old enough to help. Bethel, count me out. I'm not helping with anything. I'm a footballer, and I don't have time. Jerry, their elder brother, intervened. We should do whatever our mother asks us to do. Mark, sometimes we need to use our brains in this house. I don't think our father is well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing all this work. Jerry, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not helping. Mark, at your age, you should know how to help. Why can't you do it? Jerry left to have his food, refusing to help. Only Mark started helping their father by washing plates and fetching water. When Vivian returned in the evening, she saw the work done and assumed John was back. Vivian, has Dad come back? Mark, no, he hasn't. I did the chores. Vivian, you're disobedient. Leave the chores for your father. Mark, why should I? I'm grown enough to help. Vivian, you said you're grown, but I still feed you. Your father earns for this house. Mark, but you feed me. Dad brings money. Why should I wait for him? Vivian punished Mark, who ran outside and stayed at a friend's house until his father returned. Later, John came back. His wife welcomed him. John already knew his tasks. He said, "Let me first fetch the water before washing the plates and cooking the food." When he wanted to go and take the bucket to fetch the water, John found out that someone had already fetched the water. He was surprised. He also checked the plates, they had been washed. When John wanted to know who had helped him with the domestic work, they told him it was Mark. John called for Mark to thank him, but they said he was not around. While they were still talking, Mark came back. "Mark, Daddy, you are welcome." John, "Yes, I'm back." Mark wanted to tell his father that his mother wanted to beat him, but he decided not to tell him. Vivian used her side eyes to watch Mark. Mark also looked at his mother, knowing she was watching him. Later, Vivian didn't touch Mark that day. The following day. As the days passed, the repercussions of Vivian's incantation continued to unfold, casting a shadow over the lives of those it touched. In Confidence's struggling shop, the air hung heavy with desperation. She had tried every trick in the book to attract customers, but nothing seemed to work. Each passing day brought her closer to the brink of financial ruin. Meanwhile, Ade's once bright academic future dimmed with each passing moment. The fog in his mind grew denser, obscuring even the simplest of concepts. No amount of studying could lift the veil of confusion that now clouded his thoughts. Peter's blindness, too, proved to be more than just a physical ailment. It weighed heavily on him, robbing him of his independence and leaving him reliant on others for even the most basic tasks. And in John's household, Mark's act of defiance sparked tensions that simmered just below the surface. His willingness to defy his mother's orders spoke to a deeper unrest within the family dynamic, one that threatened to erupt at any moment. As each character grappled with their own struggles, Vivian watched from the sidelines, a silent observer of the chaos she had wrought. But even she couldn't predict the full extent of the havoc her actions would unleash. As the sun rose on a new day, the stage was set for the next chapter in this unfolding drama. With each passing moment, the threads of fate drew tighter, weaving a tapestry of consequences that none could escape. As Peter and Amaka embarked on their journey to seek help from the native doctor, they encountered various challenges along the way. Peter, relying solely on Amaka's guidance, stumbled over uneven terrain and struggled to keep pace with her. Despite the difficulties, their determination to find a solution to Peter's blindness remained unwavering. Upon reaching the native doctor's dwelling, a humble abode nestled deep within the forest, they were greeted by an elderly man with a weathered face and kind eyes. "Native doctor, welcome, travelers. What brings you to seek my assistance?" "Amaka, my husband, Peter, has suddenly become blind, and we have been directed to you for help." The native doctor nodded solemnly, inviting them inside his humble dwelling. He began to examine Peter carefully, chanting ancient incantations and performing rituals aimed at uncovering the source of his affliction. After what seemed like an eternity, the native doctor finally spoke, his voice filled with both wisdom and concern. "Native doctor, Peter, your blindness is not merely a physical ailment but a manifestation of deeper spiritual unrest. You carry burdens within you that weigh heavily on your soul." Peter's heart sank at the revelation, realizing that his blindness was more than just a physical impairment. It was a reflection of his inner turmoil and unresolved issues. "Amaka, is there anything we can do to help him, wise one?" The native doctor nodded thoughtfully, offering them a solution that required courage and determination. "Native doctor, Peter, you must embark on a spiritual journey to confront the demons that plague your mind and soul. Only then can you find true healing and regain your sight." Peter and Amaka exchanged a determined glance, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the native doctor's guidance, they set out on a quest to traverse the depths of Peter's subconscious, confronting his fears and doubts head-on. As they delved deeper into the labyrinth of Peter's psyche, they encountered formidable obstacles and daunting adversaries. Yet, with Amaka's unwavering support and the native doctor's guidance, Peter found the strength to overcome each trial, gradually shedding the shackles of his past and embracing a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Peter emerged from the depths of his subconscious, his eyes ablaze with newfound determination and resolve. "Peter, I can see. I can see." Amaka's eyes filled with tears of joy as she embraced her husband, grateful for the miraculous transformation that had taken place. Together, they returned home, their hearts filled with hope and gratitude for the journey that had brought them closer together and illuminated the path to Peter's salvation. The following day, the atmosphere in John's household was tense, with unspoken tensions lingering between Mark and his mother, Vivian. Mark, though relieved that his father, John, appreciated his help, was still wary of his mother's disapproval. As the day progressed, Mark noticed his father's weariness from his long day at work. Determined to ease his burden, Mark took it upon himself to prepare dinner while his father rested. Meanwhile, Bethel, absorbed in his football training, remained oblivious to the dynamics at home. Jerry, torn between his loyalty to his mother and his admiration for Mark's initiative, grappled with conflicting emotions. In the evening, when John returned home, he was pleasantly surprised to find dinner ready and the house in order. Grateful for the unexpected help, he praised Mark and thanked him sincerely. Vivian, however, maintained her disapproving silence, her gaze still filled with skepticism towards her son's defiance of her authority. Later that night, as the family gathered for dinner, an uneasy tension filled the air. Mark, sensing his mother's disapproval, tried to engage her in conversation, but she remained aloof. Finally, unable to bear the silence any longer, Mark mustered the courage to address the elephant in the room. "Mark, Mom, I know you're upset with me for helping Dad, but I couldn't just stand by and watch him do everything alone. We're a family, and we should help each other." Vivian's expression softened slightly, but she remained guarded. "Vivian, Mark, it's not that I don't appreciate your willingness to help, but your father and I have our roles in this family. It's not your place to take over his responsibilities." "Mark, but Mom, isn't it more important to support each other than to stick to rigid roles? Dad works hard for us, and the least we can do is ease his burden when we can." Vivian thought to herself, "This boy is challenging me in this house. It's like I need to use a spell on him because he has been going too far." John was there, but he didn't say anything due to the spell used on him. Vivian always renews her spell on John, which makes him not know what he is doing. Even when his friends tried to talk to him about stopping the domestic work he always does in his house, John would not say anything. All he would say is, "I want to help my wife with the domestic work." John says what he is saying because of the spell on him. Thanks for watching. If you want us to continue and also know what happened next, type continue on the comments section and subscribe to our channel and turn on your notification.